Welcome to Tuned In with Mike Johnson, a public service of Mount Wilson FM Broadcasters and Global Jazz Incorporated. Now, here's Mike.
And a very good Sunday morning to you. This is Tuned In from Mount Wilson FM Broadcasters and Global Jazz Incorporated. One of the things we do here at Tuned In is we try to shed the light on nonprofit organizations that you may not know enough about, maybe have never heard of at all, organizations here in Southern California and Central California that are doing good for the community. And this is another one of those examples. We're going to have two guests on today. The second guest is going to be a woman named Juliet Stid. She is a graduate from Loyola Marymount and is a licensed marriage and family therapist. And that ties into our first guest. His name is Roger Van Remmen. He is the CEO of Richstone Family Center. And Roger, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mike?
Good. Thanks for being with us on this Sunday morning. So, Roger, again, the organization that you're the CEO of, the Richstone Family Center. What is the Richstone Family Center?
The Richstone Family Center is a nonprofit charity. At its cornerstone, our mission is really here to provide services to prevent child abuse and domestic violence. We've been here for about 40 years. We're based in Hawthorne, California.
I was going to say 40 years ago. That's quite an undertaking. What was the beginning of the organization? How did it all start?
There was a lady, B. Richstone. God bless her soul. She's left us, but she started here in a small little house in Hawthorne with the need of knowing that there was a child abuse problem. She got a lot of volunteer therapists. Matter of fact, from Manhattan Beach, that would come into to this little building, and this little building was no more than maybe 1,200 square feet. We had three little bedrooms, and we had counseling, and then she would have her office basically in the living room of this house. So that's really how it got started, and now we've grown to a situation where we're more comprehensive with our services, but we've got a budget of around $4 million.
So when the organization began all those years ago, was this just an idea in her mind that there were local kids or local people that needed assistance, or was it based upon a specific incident that struck a nerve with her?
No, not at all. It was really it was really filling a community need, that she saw the problem in the community and wanted to do something about it.
That's the voice of Roger Van Remmen. He is the CEO of Richstone Family Center in the South Bay, and they are an organization dedicated to the prevention and treatment of child abuse here in Southern California. The program is tuned in from Mount Wilson FM Broadcasters and Global Jazz Incorporated. Now, Roger, as we talked about at the offset of the show, that there's a lot of organizations that are doing good work and don't get a lot of attention. And this is one of the things what we're trying to do here is to draw attention to the organization. Now, I understand that coming up later on in March, there is a big gala event. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Probably one of our largest fundraising events will be held March 21st in Torrance at the Audi dealership in Torrance, the LA Car Guy. And every year, this is a large event. We bring in around 400 people from the South Bay area that will support the organization. It's without a doubt, it's one of our largest fundraisers. We all will honor some people within the community that have been, so impactful for us, as well as other, charitable events. And so this year we're honoring Carol Wagner-Valianos, and Carol has been president of LA Biomed. She's on our board and just a great contributor, and has just done an awful lot of wonderful nonprofit charitable events. Also, we're honoring another one of our people that are on the board, Larry Wolf, and Larry was one of the founders of Shorewood Realty. He and the organization has always been very supportive. So it's going to be a Greek gala, and it's going to be quite a wonderful time.
So now the event coming up, also coming up on the 21st, will there be things like raffles where people can, if they're in attendance, can maybe win prizes or get to have experience with celebrities or that sort of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, we've got a committee that's going crazy right now. You're going to be seeing some cruises available for auction. There'll be tons of auction items that will be available. One of our great partners for this is Bristol Farms, and they bring in a variety of different wineries, first for tasting and then for auction. We're also going to have a lot of people cannot be a part of the event that night, so we have an opportunity drawing where there will only be 500 tickets sold.
Oh, wow.
And then you have a chance to win a trip in the United States on United Airlines or Southwest. I think it's going to be Southwest. And $2,500 gift card for American Express. And that was all done by Beach Cities Orthopedics, and they were the sponsor of that. So there's a variety of chances for someone to participate and get something that would be fun.
That's the voice of Roger Van Remmen. He is the CEO of Richstone Family Center in the South Bay, and this is Tuned In from Mount Wilson FM Broadcasters and Global Jazz Incorporated. Roger, you and I were chatting briefly before we went on the air, and you mentioned to me that you came from not exactly the nonprofit world. Tell us, how did you wind up with the organization?
This is a long story. Years ago, I mean, probably one of our most famous executive directors we've ever had here is Dorothy Courtney. And back in the 80s, I knew Dorothy in the beach area, and she got me involved on the board. And I've been on the board since the mid-1980s. And then it came a time about 2 years ago as we were talking and looking at the organization, and I was about ready to get into a semi-retirement mode. The executive board came to me and said, "Hey, before we go look for a new executive director, why don't you consider doing this, because you know more about the organization than anybody else does. Plus, you come from the business field versus the nonprofit field, and we feel that can be a major plus in growing the organization." So I said, "Oh my God, that's a great question, but let me think about it. Let me talk to my wife." Mm-hmm. See if what she feels about it. And they said, "Don't worry, we already did. You're in."
When you made that move, did you know what you were in for?
I didn't know, and I tell the board this all the time, and something I try to work with them very closely on is that as a board, you feel like you know the operations here, but once you get in here on a day in and day out basis, it's completely different. So I really try to communicate to the board so they know what's in front and what's going on. Our assets are our people. When you think about it, we provide counseling services, therapy services, and our assets are our people. So you want to make sure that you've got a great group of people, and I'm blessed and fortunate that we got a great team here. And then you want to make sure that you continue to grow them, and make sure that they're happy, and make sure that they're following their career path, and we're doing the right things for them as well.
When you mentioned team, obviously there's a whole lot of folks who work there to give support and give love and care. How does one become a member of the team?
Well, that's a good question. Certainly, the basis of our organization, is therapy and therapists.
Okay.
And we have Juliet. You'll be talking to Juliet Stitt a little bit later,
mm-hmm.
but she has a great program working with USC and Long Beach State and a couple of other universities where we bring in interns who are getting their degrees as a therapist, and they come in here and train, and it's a great training ground for them, and it's a great training ground for us to be able to look at these people and use that as the growth of our therapists as we grow. We have a lot of volunteers that come here throughout the South Bay that just spend endless hours, and some that are retired that just have great skills that just love the kids and do this. So that's kind of a basis on how we get the people.
Do you look for volunteers? I mean, the event coming up on March 21st again. If there's someone who is hearing this about this organization for the first time, again, Richstone Family Center, for people who might be wanting to volunteer their services, even if they're just helping out to, get things together, putting plates on the table, that sort of thing. Are there people are you still in need of volunteers to help out?
We are always in need of volunteers. I mean, we always look for new volunteers. You can never have enough volunteers. So yes, the doors are always open here. The phones are always open, and we love to talk to people.
The website is RichstoneFamily.org, RichstoneFamily.org. Again, we're speaking with Roger Van Remmen. He is the CEO of Richstone Family Center, an organization dedicated to the prevention and treatment of child abuse. This is Tuned In from Mount Wilson FM Broadcasters and Global Jazz Incorporated. Now, Roger, as CEO, obviously you're there and you understand the goings-on of the organization. Some of the stories that you have to experience, though, of these kids who have gone through horrific situations, when you see them firsthand, it's got to just tear you apart some days, I would imagine.
It can tear you apart, and it's just not the kids. It can be the families.
Sure.
It can be everything. I mean, one of the things that we've done here, with the team and Juliet, myself, Allison, is not only are we attacking child abuse, but we're also attacking domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just here are a couple little statistics to think about. But tough to do on a radio interview. But imagine yourself to close your eyes and count for 10 seconds, or 9 seconds, because every 10 seconds, a report of child abuse is made in the United States. Every 9 seconds, there's a new case of domestic violence reported, in the United States. So there's a gigantic problem, and while our core has been child abuse, we've been moving more into domestic violence as well with the programs we've done here. And I mean, I could spend a little time talking about the diversity of all the different types of programs that we have at Richstone, which is really interesting. I mean, most people that come to this organization, and I give them a tour, after the tour they go, "Oh my God, I had no idea that you handle such a variety of different aspects of treating children and parents." For example, we have a core of therapists here, and we get a lot of our cases come in from the Department of Children and Family Services. But we also have an after-school program, and we have one here based right here at Richstone, and it handles about 50 kids. But we also work with the Hawthorne School District, and we have a whole team of people that go to 10 campuses of the Hawthorne School District dealing with an after-school program. And it's just a way of working with children at a young age, keeping them focused and going in the right direction, and teaching them about life, helping them with school. And we handle 1,100 kids there. Here's an interesting point about our own little program we have here for 50 kids. About a year ago, we lost some of the government funding, or we lost all the government funding for our after-school program at Richstone. And I went to the board and I said, "Hey, here's a challenge that we have." And we talked about it, and we all agreed. It was like no decision at all. I mean, it was a done decision that this is the core of our organization. We will find the money to support our kids program. And this kids program we have here ranges from people little kids in first grade all the way up to sixth grade, and we're now going into high school.
Mm.
And these kids have been together for years. Some have been abused. Some are just part of the community that want an after-school program, and the parents want them here. And these kids are like families to each other, and love and respect each other, which is so great. We had a little party for the parents that the kids put on yesterday, which was cute, and they did a little show for it. But it's all one gigantic family. So that's one aspect of what we do. We have another a program that we do called First Five, and it's parents acting as teachers, and we handle this over in the Watts Willowbrook area, and it's a brand new program where we have new parents that are having children, and we're going to home visitation, and we're teaching these young parents on how to be good parents. We have a van, our caravan. I mean, I can go on for hours, but we have a caravan that goes out all the way down to the Wilmington area to Lomita, and what they do is it's basically doing the services that we offer in therapy, but these people can't afford to come to us, so we go to them. We'll go to school campuses. We'll go to government housings, and we'll provide therapy there. So we have a couple of other little programs that I'll talk about real quickly, but one is a crisis management program with the Centinela Valley High School program, high school district. And we have a whole team over there dealing with crisis management of high school people. And this happened one day because a lady went to wake up her son for breakfast. She went into the kitchen, and then a gun went off, and he shot himself in the head.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so you deal with that every day. Every day, something comes in. And then we have another program that's like, we love this, but we have a transitional living program. And foster care, we all know foster care and what a good situation that is, but it's also not that good. And so we have a transitional living program where we have 2 houses about a mile away, where we have 8 kids, 8 ladies in there, and at the age of 18, they're put on the streets after foster care. So they come with us for 2 years, and we provide them, education on how to get ready for life, and we give them job skills. And we have a great success of these girls that have graduated from this program. Some have become nurses. They've gone to UCLA and become nurses. Others have become a truck driver. But the fact is, they're no longer reliant on the system. They're now producing for the system and having a job and a career and a family. So, I mean, that's just, some of the other programs that we do to kind of embrace our mission in life here and our mission at Richstone.
Well, Roger, listen, the work you're doing there is very, very important, and as I said at the outset, needs a little bit more attention. So again, the website is RichstoneFamily.org, and again, one more time, Roger, the event is on March 21st?
March 21st, the Audi dealership in Torrance. Certainly go to the website, call us here, 310-970-1921, and, we'd love to have your participation.
Roger, again, thank you.
Thank you.
That's the voice of Roger Van Remmen, CEO of Richstone Family Center. We're going to continue after the break with Juliet Stidd. She is the clinical director of the Richstone Family Center and director of their transitional living program. You're listening to Tuned In.
Hope is a verb. It calls us to action. Pulmonary hypertension is a disease. It affects up to 40% of scleroderma patients, 32% of sickle cell patients, 1 in 200 AIDS patients. It also attacks those with lupus, sleep apnea, and COPD. It has no cure yet, but there is hope on the horizon. To be part of the solution or to find out more about pulmonary hypertension, visit www.phassociation.org.
We continue now in Tuned In with Juliet Stidd. Juliet Stidd is a graduate of Loyola Marymount University and a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she has diverse clinical experience ranging from working in a psychiatric hospital to private practice, and she is currently the clinical director of the Richstone Family Center and the director of their transitional living program. And Juliet, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Thanks for being with us on this Sunday morning. So it's quite a mouthful. So how did you come to be part of Richstone?
I actually started straight out of graduate school, and I was hired. I was an intern with Richstone and just grew through the years and kind of maneuvered through several of their different clinical programs and became a clinical supervisor, and now I'm the director.
So when you had the training, especially as an intern, did you ever imagine it you'd be here all this time?
I always did, and people kind of gave me a hard time and said, you don't want to, check out some other things? And I said, no, I'm going to be the clinical director there someday. And so some of my LMU friends email me when they find out that I'm still here, and they're pretty excited for me because it's just what I always wanted to do. Clinical
director of the Richstone Family Center. So day-to-day, what does that involve for you?
Well, I oversee every clinical program that we have. So anybody who's receiving any kind of therapy or case management from us, I oversee those services to make sure that there's a good quality being delivered. Mm-hmm. And so I also provide supervision to my own interns and trainees from various schools, predominantly Cal State Long Beach, USC, and Pepperdine, and help them become better therapists, and then we review their cases, and also I just ensure that all of our contracts are in compliance and that we're providing all the services that we said we were going to provide.
The programming there at Richstone is so important to the community. When you think about from your early days as an intern and now obviously with the big fancy title you have now, it's got to do your heart good to know that you're putting in so much work for the community.
Absolutely. It's a really fulfilling place to be because our families here, they need it so bad, and Richstone just has a pretty open door policy for people to come in from all over the place that can't seem to find services elsewhere. So we're not just serving our neighborhood, but there's people coming from quite a distance to see us, and that feels great.
And the problems of domestic abuse as well as child abuse and the things like that Richstone is in taking care of for folks in the South Bay. As you say, there are people that come from a long distance away to get education or to get help. Do you think the problem is getting better or getting worse?
Unfortunately, it's both, I think.
Okay.
We're seeing more intense cases of domestic violence and child abuse, so in that sense, it does feel worse sometimes. But also, it's good news that we're seeing them, because that means they're no longer in hiding, and that means that so those cases were likely always there. We just didn't know about them. So now, because we're doing so much outreach, and because we're so connected with the community and the schools in our community and just other programs, those cases finally have a light being shined on them and are getting the help that they need and probably have needed for quite a long time.
Was there a certain case early on that sort of threw the switch for you that said, this is what I have to do?
Oh, there were a few.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few cases where I just thought, oh my goodness, if these people didn't get any kind of intervention or support, this could have gone dramatically wrong. And the beautiful thing about being in one place for so long is that I can see sometimes the fruits of my labor, and we've had clients who've come back who are, that I saw as kids that want to check in, and will call and say, here's where I'm at now. I'm in college, or I'm in the military, and so some of those cases made a huge impact on me, and I like to think I made an impact on them.
Well, obviously, there must be some impact there. I mean, you're talking about people who were recipients of help at one point. Do you see that a lot, of folks who were recipients of help and have come back to do their part for folks who might be going through the same problems?
We do see that, not only even with our clinical program, but we have a transitional living program that I run for young women who emancipate from foster care.
Okay.
And so once they graduate they live with us for about 2 years, and then hopefully go on and become college graduates and homeowners and things like that. And we often have them come back and want to support some of our current residents. So as do some of our clinical clients as well, where they will come back. And at Christmas time, we had a family who said, we were clients of Richstone, and Richstone helped us so much, and Richstone even managed to get us Christmas gifts at the holidays.
Wow.
And now we're in such a good place that we want to maybe adopt a family through Richstone and make sure that they get all of their holiday needs met the way that we did several years ago. So we have some really heartwarming stories that come through, and it just kind of carries you all year long. They're just so great.
The transitional living program, that's mainly for young women who are trying to break away from foster care and sort of live a life on their own. Is that how that works?
Well, our program is specifically for young women,
okay.
And it is women who emancipate from foster care, and so they will age out of the foster care system, and a lot of them, frankly, don't have any place to go, but don't quite have the social skills, academic skills, employment skills to really be able to support themselves. And so they come and live with us, and we have a structured program where we require that they work and require that they go to school, require that they save their money, and we will help them with their mental health, with making resumes, practicing for interviews. I mean, pretty much whatever it is that they need, learning how to cook, learning how to clean, we will help them with anything just to get them ready for living on their own.
It's really, really nice that you have the program to help young women, especially, learn these skills and gain the knowledge. Do you see a trend with folks who maybe grasp the idea of getting out on their own versus folks who are, they're in big trouble?
Unfortunately, we see a lot of them finding themselves in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a group that we will often see repeat victimization. So a lot of them were victims of some kind of abuse growing up, and then because they're so vulnerable when they're aging out, they often become victims again by somebody else. So because they need housing, or they don't have their basic needs met, and it'll put them in a tough spot. So we do see that as, it's a scary situation for a lot of these. It's not just the young women; it's young women, young men that are in a tough position. And luckily, people know that that's a tough position, and there are a lot of programs that are being developed out there, some programs that we have in the works to provide additional support to this population, because homelessness, some of them become victims of sex trafficking, things like that, and it's just a scary spot for them to be in.
Have you had to take in young ladies who have been victims of sex trafficking?
Yes, we have. We've had young women who've been kidnapped, held against their will, forced into all kinds of activities that were really traumatic for them. We've had young women who've kind of been forced into various forms of prostitution where they weren't being kidnapped, but kind of just as a way of having their basic needs met. And so it's so important, I think, to have a program like ours, because we're so much more than shelter. We don't just give them shelter and food and bus passes and things like that. We give them, I have therapists working there. I have women from various walks of life and ages and backgrounds who are a role model and a support system for these young women. So they really become healthy, productive individuals, as opposed to just having shelter to buy them some time.
The young ladies that have been in your care who have been victims of the sex trade, are they less willing to be trustworthy of an organization like Richstone because it's all new and they're not used to people being nice to them?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing, and so we have to go through quite a process of rapport building with them, because a lot of them have it ingrained, and I've even had one tell me specifically, I learned very early in life that you cannot trust anybody. And so we have to kind of work with that, because we also want to respect that they have those walls and boundaries for a reason. It's to keep them safe, and so we don't want to just start chipping away at them immediately. We want to make them safe and comfortable, and work on their time frame a little bit too, to build the trust with them, so that they know that they have a support in us, and we're not going to be yet another entity that takes advantage of them.
Now, Juliet, I understand that coming up March 21st, there's a big event.
Yes.
I think it's called An Affair of the Heart, My Big Fat Greek Gala. Talk about that for a moment.
We are very excited. These are amazing events where just some really wonderful, generous people come out and help our agency. It's a fundraising event, and we have a wonderful dinner and a silent auction and a live auction, and it's just the most exciting time. And this year is got a real special twist to it as well, because there's going to be some pre-taped interviews of some people who've been recipients of our services.
Oh,
and
wow.
One in particular, we had one woman who just did a beautiful job of taking advantage of our transitional living program and our therapy and our domestic violence groups, and so she kind of worked her way through all of our services, and really is at a point where she'd like to speak out now about her experience and help other people, and so she's going to attend, and I'm just really proud of her and excited. So I think it's going to be a wonderful night.
And that's open to the public, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And obviously the event is there to help Richstone Family Center there in the South Bay, and to keep the good work going that you're doing there as the clinical director and also the director of the Transitional Living Program. And I'm guessing the funds are needed all the time.
All the time. It is, we don't want to turn people away for services, and that's, that having that policy is a hard one to keep, because that means we have to fund that point of view. So we've got to raise that money that puts us in a position that we don't turn people away who really, really need us.
Juliet, thanks for being with us this morning.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's Juliet Stidd. She is the clinical director of the Richstone Family Center and the director of their Transitional Living Program. And again, their event is coming up on March 21st. And you can find out more on their website, RichstoneFamily.org, RichstoneFamily.org. Have yourself a great Sunday, and we'll see you again next week.
To contact us at Tuned In, email tunedinmj@gmail.com. That's tunedinmj@gmail.com. or write Mike Johnson, Tuned In, P.O. Box 250028, Los Angeles, California 90025. And please join us again next week for another edition of Tuned In.